Better late than never. Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Isai. We're live on YouTube. There might not be almost any listeners, but you'll be hearing this on WSNR 620 radio. It's 11 at 11. And I, your humble host, Yehuda Halevi Levin, chronicling the freefall of Chareidi society and our values. Rabbi Isai, as Meir Kahana, Oliver Shalom, said about Ed Koch, I want to paraphrase, tonight, they might be gay. They might be gay supporters. But as gay as they are, they're really not happy, because deep down they know what they're doing and what they've done, the worst kind of Masira, forcing their immoral, anti-Torah, anti-God, anti-Hashkafa, anti-decency form of celebration of the Gentile New Year to a mixed audience by people whose values and lifestyles are antithetical to Torah and Yiddishkeit. Shame on them. They may be having a temporary victory and they're crowing about it. And unfortunately, a lot of our Chareidim are eating crow. But this presents us with a tremendous opportunity. There's going to be a very lot of provocative, controversial stuff discussed tonight. I just hope we have time to get to everything. Rabbi Isai, I was doing a radio program on a Sunday evening after the Levaya of Rabbi Ruderman, the last of the big three Litvisha pre-World War II Rosh Yeshivas from Lita. I'm referring, of course, there was Rav Moshe, Rav Yaakov, and Rav Ruderman after Aaron was Nifta. These were the primary three Gedolei Yisrael on the Moyetzes from the Litvisha Rosh Yeshivas from the pre-World War, World War II period. And when Rabbi Ruderman passed away, I was zeicher to say that the silver lining in this Batira is we are presented with an opportunity. Now that Gadol was gone, everybody moves up in rank. In other words, we all have greater responsibility, and it's a tremendous niskatnu hadoros, and lowering of level and standards. And therefore, unfortunately, as the case may be, in the Shemayim, they are now expecting far less from us. That's what I said about Rav Ruderman's Batira roughly 33 or so odd years ago, if I remember and recall correctly. Today, with the recent developments that we have seen, both in the Aguda Convention, the embarrassing, saddening, disgraceful things that went on at the Aguda Convention, particularly the two breakout sessions, one having to do with dealing with progressive politics today by the three stooges of sodomy, Messrs. Greenfield, Eichenstein, and Lichtenstein of Lakewood. And then on Sunday, I think it was, how to be shtadlonim, a hands-on quickie in how to be shtadlonim. And while I say right away that I just saw it recently, and that I as a Fruma Yid, I had nachas and I was proud of the people sitting at the table in terms of their balabatishkeit, in terms of their abilities, in terms of the fact that I'm sure overwhelmingly they would make a Kiddush Hashem, and they make an ongoing Kiddush Hashem. But as the Reverend Jesse Jackson is wont to say, however, the lack of the simple Aleph Beis of Hashkafa is tragic, it's sad, and it deserves constant focus and amplification. And your humble servant, the pincushion of Klal Yisrael, the man who's here with the thickest of skins to take all your darts, your criticisms, the litzanos of an ever-growing, increasing percentage of Chareidi Klal Yisrael. I'm here to do it for you. So we now have more of an opportunity, because the themes that I stress here constantly, and they're worth repeating again and again, not so much to give myself chinuch, because they are firmly concretized in my religio psyche. So I'm not going to change him, Yirtzeh Hashem. But for others, I think they should be inspired. Rabbi Sai, if there's a mitzvah that's laying on the ground and nobody is dealing with it, and the few who pick it up, dust it off, clean it off from its tarnish, and hold it high like a degel v'sones lekabetz Yosenu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu holds up a banner to us, and we should be holding up a banner for and to him. Says Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid in Sefer Hasidim, and it's really common sense when you think about it, because we're all on our Ravim Zelazeh, we're all on Chativa Achas, therefore, Noitel Schar Keneged Kulham. In other words, how do we say, when we put on tefillin or do other mitzvahs, and we say the L'Shem Yichud, we say, V'taryag mitzvahs haltuluyim bohem, and we say, Ub'shem Kol Yisrael. What is all that jargon? We should think, connect our brains to our mouths, and it makes it that much more potent. But we can't all do Reishis Hagez. We can't all do checking, the physical act, let's say, of checking shatnez. We can't all do the avodah of the Kahanim and the Leviim. But when they do it, and we do what we can do, we are connected with everyone, with the concept of I am a shomer, an observer, a keeper, and more than that, perhaps on a certain level, a doer of the Targig mitzvahs hatuluyim bo, because every mitzvah is interlinked, and Klal Yisrael, V'araisa, V'kutsha B'richu, and the Torah is all one chativa, and therefore, if we're connected, so therefore, when nobody is doing a certain mitzvah, we can do it. We get l'b'shem Kol Yisrael. I don't want to belabor this; it's obvious, and that's the optimism now, because even in the last few days, we are seeing a Yerida Peloyim, us, a free fall, a downfall, hurtling towards Sodom and Gomorrah. What has happened? The Moiseres don't believe the garbage that she puts out in Vasisnayas. This is games. I could have done this. I could have done that. They asked me to pose. They asked me to be angry, but I'm not. The grace of Tzadekis. If she was such a Tzadekis, she would take her comedy in her fallen state. No. Once she is out there in all of her glory, in all of her merida, in all of her surrender, and I'm not saying it's easy. I spent hours talking to her. I've spent hours talking recently to a leading, formerly Lubavitch Orthodox homosexual activist. In the past, I've spoken for hours with Mordechai Levovitz of Jewish Queer Youth. I have spoken with them, and even before I ever spoke to them, I understand their challenges and their drives. But you've got to be man or woman enough that when you're in an avaryanim state, and you do not want to change, you have made peace with the Avera. You are not to be a public figure in good standing. There's nothing funny about it. It might be gay, but it's not funny. So respectfully, gay which is gaiva, is also gay, to go, gay avec, go somewhere else, take it to the flesh pots, the sin pots of Manhattan, and do it there. Don't tell me this kutching you and witching you. I'm not going to say anything about my lifestyle. It's not going to this and that. And even if she hasn't in the past, but now that the situation that she was flirting with for the longest time, when she made that video, that anti-woman from Ura video that she made, and she took phone calls and everything else, and she asked her quote-unquote friend, who now we understand is more than a friend, what is your orientation? And the person says she's a lesbian. And of course, nobody in the audience and nobody who hears this is allowed to put two and two together. I don't want to belabor this, but this is the sad fact. I have compassion. I hope that as soon as possible, Hashem gives her the koyach to repent from what she's doing. But the chutzpah, the azus, the selfishness, the self-aggrandizement, she's got to do it dafka in the center of Borough Park and Flatbush. So today I put out on the WhatsApp, and I really have to invite listeners, when you hear my program and you see my program once a week, you're only getting a fraction of my output. There's so much more that we don't cover. On an average day, I could put out 2, 3, or 4 videos. I could put out different things culled from around the media, around the blogospheres, cyberspace, and then I can show you and analyze for you how a Fuma Yid is supposed to read these tea leaves and apply it to ourselves. Today, Boishnu Bikolam, I put out something that appears on LifeSite News. Which states that African bishops and cardinals in Tanzania, where they're starving, and a condition in accepting international food aid is that they in some way should acknowledge Mishkav Zocha, and the cardinal or the bishop says, we would rather go hungry than betray our God. Gewaltu geschrigen. This is what Rev Shlomo Zalman Brown, the grandfather of that embarrassment, Diane Brown, the Lubavitch convert, who wrote, we can vote for anybody we want, but in '85 when I ran for mayor and I visited with the Sha'ar Mitzyonim Halacha, he wrote clearly a Psak Halacha in handwriting, a full page, and he told me to come back to pick it up. This Bakashti, I was asked by somebody that was yours truly, and he writes, Chilul Hashem measures with what the Gentiles are doing. Gewalt, gewalt. Nobody, no Rav said anything about Flatbush Mama. For all the corruptions that she did, her flirting with whether or not she's a bisexual. Mamish, I can't make this stuff up. Her going into Eichlers and asking and putting all this on video. It's very cute to ask if she has if they sell an adult Hanukkah toy for her and her husband. Her bending over at Kosher Fest and inviting a 65-year-old bearded Chareidi man to take some kind of a white plastic hand and patch her on her posterior, which might have joggled her brains even more than normal. Her chutzpah in posting a Hanukkah and saying that today the misyavnim of the evangelicals, this misyavenes, whose mom is bringing schmutz into the community, she's calling evangelical Christians, tens of millions of them, who are putting their money where their mouth is and doing things similar to the Black Cardinal in Africa, are fighting even 45 years after Roe versus Wade legalizing abortion and saying we're not at peace with it and we're going to fight for our biblical value. She's calling them misyavnim. You understand? I say again and again, her grandparents, tzaddikim, Rabbis Miles and Rabbi Adler, uncles, choshev, father tzaddik, but as Aviyah he mechalelet, and they have stepped over the marginal line, And I feel that when she sat in her car on a Friday, I think it was, all pouting and making, she's almost crying, I got to speak to Leah. You can't take this thing down. I believe that perhaps, maybe to be Melamed a little schus, that Forrester wasn't the one who was going to go and shout this from the rooftops and go to the Daily News to Reuven Blau, a comment, fech. And I thank God that I never have to have that kind of a challenge. Reuven Blau, some sort of a Orthodox or formerly Orthodox Jew, whenever there's a schmutz garbage about Orthodoxy, he's the purveyor, he's the conduit. What do you think? If it's my parnasa, I have to do it. I'm not jealous of him after 120 years to give a din l'cheshbon. Who went to Human Rights Commission of the city of New York, who cowed, who beat up on the Vada Rabbana of Flatbush, so they came running out because they were afraid of a lawsuit? We never said. Probably they were lying. Probably they did say that we don't want this here. Of course, if they had a little seichel, they would have seen the whole idea of having a New Year's celebration that goes counter to our religion with wine. You know, this whole Piskei Halacha about having a Suda with wine. I think it's Asur al Pi Halacha when it's not a Suda shel mitzvah to serve wine at a Suda. Correct me if I'm wrong, the Talmidei Chacham out there. So there was ample religious reason for them to start to say a comedy for men and women mixed is an official thing, is different than a Sheva Brachas or a family type of situation that's mixed. I'm not saying it's easy, but Jack Phillips, the Gentile, the baker, without being an organization of hundreds of Rabbanim in the fourth or fifth most densely populated Chareidi neighborhood in the world outside of Bnei Brak and Yerushalayim, you know, now I understand why, when I heard from Rabbi Wiener, I might have reported to you, he was the kashrus supervisor, checker of all the meisters, the kashrus facilities, the restaurants. He was doing this for a number of years for KIC, Kashrus Information Center. And they closed down, he said, because they couldn't get $10,000 or so to pay him and to pay the expenses. A joke. $10,000, a sneeze. There are people who buy a Mafta Yoina in Flatbush who could spend that kind of money. Rabbi Sai, what does that say? What does that say about the Rabbanim and their concern for Kashrus and Flatbush, that they let a thing like KIC fold? What does it say to us, Rabbi Sai? Think about it. So the point over here is, now I understand on a deeper level. Look at the corruption, the ratgut, the sissiness. I'm not saying it's easy, but may Hashem Yatzadava, did you bother to check before you capitulated and wrote a statement, which is probably a lie? Did you check with the Alliance Defense Fund, with the Thomas More Society, with the Liberty Council, with the American Center for Law and Justice? These are 4 organizations I just named you. And I told this to the wife of one of the Rav HaMachshas of one of these eateries. I said, if there's going to be a collapse, at least let them check if these organizations would believe they have a case. One of these organizations, Alliance Defense Fund, was the ones who took, what's his name, who went to the Supreme Court with Jack Phillips, and now that Jack Phillips, the baker, is being attacked again by the Rishonim in Colorado. In other words, they have to withstand to be attacked and stand up and fight. It's not enough he went to the Supreme Court, he has to fight again because the Nevolim are trying to get him. And he's a single person. But when he went out there and he went on a GoFundMe, or somebody did it for him, I don't even think he went himself, they put together the $150,000 for his knas, for his fine from the Human Rights Commission of Colorado in a few days. But then the mushkasim, the homosexuals or the homosexualists who want to just push and shove this stuff down our throats and into our society and into our living rooms, They got to go fund me to be politically correct. How can you give money to this discriminatory bigot? Yeah, this discriminatory bigot, the Supreme Court paskin ruled like him. So anyhow, they didn't give him the money. Now, I don't know what happened, if he got it in some other way or whatever it is. But the point is, he's a yachid. And his Gentile community from across the country, they poured in money. And now he's being challenged again and again. They're pouring in money. And our tzaddikim, our tzaddikas, our tzidkaniyos, our rabbanim collapse in days, in 2 or 3 days, like cheap folding cameras. Did they even check what there is some local yokel lawyer who might not even specialize in this? Did they go to the top ones who stand up for religious liberty? And was it paskined right away? Did they go and ask? Did they go and ask Rav David Feinstein? Did they go? Maybe this is like a little bit like a gezerah of Arkas of the Masani, red shoelaces. Maybe this is a little bit like a Shas Hashmad, because what they're doing, I mean, are you allowed to have the Seichel Teres Hashem Machkinas Besi to connect what Rev Brudny and Rev Reisman are talking about, the attack and on the yeshiva system? And are you allowed to have enough foresight, insight, seichel, familiarity with the culture of what's going on? Do they know these things to understand? I'm jumping from issue to issue, but please try to follow me. Focus, Rabbi Say, focus, because the insight that you get here, you do not get anywhere. The key is there. But if you listen, and you listen week in and week out, and if you tune into the WhatsApp so that you can see my videos and my analysis, believe me, you will graduate with a PhD degree and you will know more than 90% of the Askonim, you understand, who work for the vaunted OUs and the Aguda, and they operate on the errant, mistaken, misguided, wrong Rabbi Shera philosophy of kissing up. This is where kissing up to the lowlife politicians has gotten us. Do you know why they're making this gezerah with the schools and saying ridiculous things like with ha'azah? The outrage to do that, right? We're all indignant. By the way, the Catholic Church is sending them the address where to go. They put out publicly, we're not going along with letting you send school board supervisors into us. And by there, it's not a question of checking the hours. But the Catholics are smart enough to understand, what do they want from the Catholic private schools? You know what they want? They want something similar from what they want from the Jewish religious schools. Listen carefully. I'm going to impart it to you in a simple, pithy paragraph. Let's see if the Gedalim, Askonim, Rabbonim, and Pshutei from the Aguda OU and Amcha can grasp this and start to recalibrate, like the GPS, when you make a wrong turn, recalculating. Let's see if they're man and woman enough to do it. They know that we're going to win because, like the Jewish press did research, Sandy Eller, Joey Aarons did research, and it's getting out all over. We do 30 points better than the public school system on the standardized tests, the regions, or the other tests that they take during the course of the years. So what's this baloney? The answer is, this is not what they want. They want to get involved in wrangling with us, wrestling with us, and also distracting us. And eventually we'll win, and they won't come out with the hours, and they won't be able to chepa with us in the immediate sense, but they'll have succeeded in putting school board members and from each school board throughout the state, wherever there's a religious or private school, to come inside there and start to balabatava. They will have gotten the nose of the camel into the tent. Where did we see them do this? Let me remind you, when the Erlicha Yid put up a sign in his store in Wiensburg that people have to observe a certain dress code. We don't want 3/4 naked women coming there and forcing us to transgress on the Loisa Surach V'Levavichem, making it much, much harder to withstand. You're coming to a store that I built with my blood, sweat, and tears. So came in the human rights Gestapo came in, and they said, what do you mean? It's public accommodations. Those we use all these highfalutin things. When you open a store, you have to serve the public, and therefore they're entitled to come in. You can't tell them a dress code, how to dress. So what happened? So once again, they were threatened with a lawsuit, and they might lose money. I understand. They're not millionaires. What should have happened is the Satmar Rebbe, who went and he raised hundreds of thousands of dollars with Shmeichel Rai and singing for that Mushchis Weberman who was sitting in Tfisa because of the curse that Yeshayahu Hanavi, whoever it was who lay dying, and he gave a curse to his interlocutors, to his adversaries, that their tzedakah should go to the wrong places, and the realization of that was all the imbeciles who gave money for Weberman, and they'll constantly give money for other menuvolim, for that is money. But to fight in court and to show some of the politicians, we will put together money and we will throw out somebody, we will take a scalp. Assemblyman, state senator, district leader, city councilman, congressman. Where's the big muscles of Satmar? They make all these big things with the chasnis nu have. Dem hat men Geld zu tummeln und zu weisen. But then you fold like cheap cameras, and Andrew Cuomo comes in. Andrew Cuomo comes in and he goes like this. He didn't say this, but this is what he said. He didn't make the signal. I brought the checkbook. I have my man here with the checkbook. He's showing you, he considers you whores, esnan zionisnik, for $4. You sell yourself, you sell your God, you sell your Torah, you sell your religion. So why didn't Satmar go ahead and sit down with the OU and sit down with the Aguda, sit down with Osukulam Aguda Achas? This is what Rabbi Reisman is saying. We have to have Achdus. Is the Achdus, Rabbi Reisman, only that we should stop fighting brother Rebbe against brother Rebbe, or this Baba against that Baba, or Satmar against the Baba? Is that, of course, that would be very nice. That's Achdus. But Rabbi Reisman, you're an Ankin. Why don't you and Rabbi Brudny take it to the next step? The Achdus that's called for here is an Achdus of acting in concert, like the African Galochim are acting. They're making an Aguda Achas and saying, hell no, hell, Gehenim, hell no, we won't go along. And they're starving. And we are Al Sira Bosa. You know how many multi-millionaires there are? Baruch Hashem. I'd have to start listing the names. Billionaires in our community. Amongst them, people who have podcasts. Billionaires who have podcasts. Who sometimes they're pushing garbage. You understand? There's no reason at this late stage there shouldn't be a meeting of Gedolei Yisrael Maskonim and philanthropists, and put together $1 or $2 million. This guy Gil, I don't know if he's Jewish or not. He spent years ago already. He defeated millions of dollars. He defeated, I think, 70 candidates, or maybe it was $70 million. They wrote him up in the Atlantic or whatever it is, to put his money where his mouth is. He's going to get right-wing religious candidates who are against Hashchasa, and he's going to fight them. He's going to beat them. And he does, because they go with the Lishma. Where's our Lishma? Oh, we have the money. Oh, there's no money for Caribbean vacations and Pesach. You see the lists and lists when there used to be a Country Yossi magazine, would have a list, tens and tens of places they would go, and the millions, tens or maybe over $100 million in the aggregate. Veves, how much is spent? Zalfing and fressing. For them is your guilt. This is why Hashem gave the money, right? The Protestants know in their religion that God gave them the wherewithal to do what they call good works. Tzedakah. We don't understand at this late stage. Like I proudly say, that to give money to buy a Jewish press subscription from an Oni, I believe he can take it off Misa money. You know why? because the big people with the big money who could do these pirsoimis and who could do the things are not. So we have to encourage the Jewish press to keep on writing the articles that they're writing and to call out people. And I hold this up to you as a mashal. This is from this week's Culture Wars and Jewish Culture Wars from the dispatch from the Culture Wars, Rabbi Say. Let me just see here. I dropped the phone where I'm WhatsApping this. I want to make sure that that stays. Give me a moment, please. Oh boy, oh boy. Sie geht nicht da rein, Rabbi say this is a serious problem. I gave a zest to something. And now I don't know. And now I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that this is very unprofessional, but I cannot afford a I'm going to go again. Okay, we're back online. I'm going to have to patch with this later. Why? Okay, it's all going back in. We're hooked in Baruch Hashem, Rabbi Say. Okay, listen, the Satan is trying desperately to discombobulate me. Tonight, I spent 2.5 hours trying to reconnect this internet connection in order to do this program, which probably nobody's watching it live at this time. But nevertheless, they'll have me with my ADD, with my inabilities in terms of technology, with all the challenges I go through. Eina Alain, unbowed. Here's the article from the New York Post's existential threat to yeshivas. And here's the second article by them in this week's Jewish Press, which is why you could use my money. New Jersey legislator considers a moral education legislation. I'm jumping from thing to thing. Bear with me, and we'll try to bring all the loose ends together. Fruma Yidden went down, and they testified against the bill in Trenton. I think I might have reported it last week. The bill is it's passing in all the public schools. They have to now teach they started out with the bill in social studies only, that they have to teach history from the perspective of gayachs. In other words, they have to say, this great figure was a gayachs, and this one was a lesbian, and this one was a trisexual, a pansexual, and alle mini schmutz. This is what they have to teach in history. This is brainwashing. This is mamish force-feeding our youth. This is what they're doing. Oh, they had such kindness on me when I was supporting Palladino, who was running against Andrew Cuomo before he folded like a camera. And I took him to Hasidic Williamsburg, and I wrote one statement that he made, and somebody else wrote another statement. And I said I support both statements, but I could only take credit for one. And the one that I wrote, and he was reading it. You can see the videos online, Ad Hayam Hazeh. And he was saying the brainwashing of our children in public school. There's no other word for it. This is brainwashing. So the frum person got up and he said, listen, if you're so concerned, and it said to give an accurate portrayal in history of the gayachts, of the various historic figures. He says, if that's the case, when you teach about World War II, the Nazis, Ernest Röhm, the head of the SS, before he and his people were killed on the night of the long knives because Hitler looked at them as a threat, but they were notorious homosexuals, and a gewaldic amount of them, including Röhm himself. So you got to say this kind of thing. You got to show how the Nazis were tied in with Mishkav Zocha, and you got to do et cetera, this kind of stuff. So Bekitzer, and he gave other examples. So they don't want to have anything to do with this, versteht sich. So then Gary, the yarmulke-wearing share, comes in, you understand, he represents Lakewood, this phony who gets, or is it, I'm sorry, is it Passaic? I get it mixed up. I think it's Passaic. Okay, so he comes in with his yarmulke. Mamish, he wears a yarmulke, you understand? And he comes in and he's questioning. It's on the video. It's out there. You can see it. He questions the homosexual activists in their panel who are for the bill. And he says to them, you know, an accurate portrayal, and if it's left to every single different school district, you could have contradictions. One will be it this way, one will be it that way. They'll use this to destroy the goal of the bill that you're having. It'll be able to be challengeable. So he's giving them advice, this Oisva of Rosh Hashanah. I don't advise you to leave the word accurate in there. So they changed the Nusach thanks to the yarmulke wearing representative of Chareidi Jews, Gary, the Oisva of Sher, to say inclusive. And inclusive means, yeah, accurate, nish accurate, number one. Second of all, it means not only, one of the assemblymen tells the Mishkevei Zacha, not only are you going to do this in the social studies history class, you're going to do it in everywhere else. There'll be a science class, they'll make sure to mix in this and this scientist, he was doing this Aveira, and this one was doing that Aveira. You understand? Now this, we're jumping from thing to thing. What Rabbanim are going to criticize Sher, not only for doing that, in other words, he voted the wrong way, but worse than that, he made the law much stronger in public schools, and it's going to be in all the schools, you understand? And eventually the noose is going to tighten, and then it's going to come to the private schools also. Mark my words, you'll see. So now let's get back. What is the department, what was the cheshbon of the people in Williamsburg? The Human Rights Commission coming down in Williamsburg. They threatened them with a knasna lawsuit, and then they made a settlement with them. The settlement was that they were allowed to put on the song, we suggest that you wear sneers, that you cover the knees, you cover your hands, you don't wear tight clothes, whatever the conduct that sneers protocols were. Now it's a suggestion. So what did they accomplish, the Human Rights Commission? They got their nose under the tent, because the biggest fear that they have is that the Chareidi natives are going to riot and go crazy and go meshuggah, etc., because once in a while they go outside police stations and they scream and yell a shtickle, you know. So they wanted to see how are the Chareidim going to react to the power of the Human Rights Commission. This was a test case. And the Jew boys, the Haimis from Haimi Town, since they didn't fight them and they didn't say, okay, you want to take us to court, we're going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court, and we're going to get the top lawyers who fight for religious liberty. The Satmar Rebbe didn't call a tea oven to support Sneas and Kedusha. You know what they did? They folded. They let the Prutzis now come in and totally disregard, and they're clutching a big victory, as an Ingarish victory. You know what the victory is? We did not have to pay out any money for this. If they didn't, maybe they did a little bit. But you understand what I'm saying? You don't like it when I call it like it is? This isn't particularly a Litvish thing. This is a Ingarisha type thing. It happened in Ingarish town in Williamsburg. I was married to a Hungarian. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I'm going to call it like it is at this point. It's enough. And let the Ingarisha Gedolim realize it's time to call things like they are and to realize. I don't understand. What does din v'cheshbon mean to you? You think it's going to be easy going? Yeah, tzedukos and everything else. You raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Oisva of Weberman? Really? People are going to get credit for giving tzedakah? So who's going to take the responsibility for misleading the public, assuming they get credit? I think from Yeshaya's curse, they don't get credit. But who's going to be the capo, the tute capo, who made this tiavant, who came there, who supported it, etc., etc.? Put together. Rabbi Reisman, you want to talk about Achdus? There's an Achdus of Mida Keneged Mida. The Achdus has to be now, of course it should be, we shouldn't fight, we shouldn't speak Lashon Hara, we should do that. That's all very good. But the pressing Achdus now is we should all get together and say we understand that the Board of Education, is State Board, is trying to get school board members to be able to come in at will to every yeshiva. And once they've pushed their nose in, they'll come in. And eventually, and here's the $64 million Nikuda underneath all of this. It's to push the Mishkav Zocha, transgender, schmutz agenda. It's already into the school books, and then they'll mandate you got to teach it. You'll see. That's what it's about. So we're going to think we have a big victory if they say, okay, you know what? You're teaching 3 hours of English a day from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Okay, we said 7.5. We're going to compromise. We'll send in the school boards people to see that you're teaching. Why should you send them in for? We have standards. We're getting better on the standardized testing. You have no business trespassing and walking into our, that's what the Catholics are saying. The Catholics are not worried about the hours. The Catholics understand Chachma Bagoyim Taimin, where's the Torah's Hashem Achkimis Pesi by unser Chachamim. The Catholics understand what it's all about. They're already pretty liberal, the Catholics. It's not a question of hours or time. It's a question of getting their nose into Balabatov on the curricula. That's what it's all about. And the Catholics are saying, let's see if the Jews are going to say, we're going to stand. Remember when Governor Wallace in the 1950s stood the schoolhouse steps and he didn't want to let them integrate? That was a terrible thing. And the president sent in the National Guard. But I'm just saying, where is the Mesiris Nefesh for Torah, for this? Like the Gentiles had Mesiris Nefesh for the worst kinds of things, and certainly for the best kinds of things, like in Tanzania. Baishnu Mikolam. Rabbi Sai, look carefully. Let me do this visually. Rabbi Sai, you see this? Let me remind you. Let me sing you a song so you should understand. For those of you who are smart enough to watch the video. Ma'oisur Yeshuasi Yevonim Nikbitzu Olai Rashkichem Toirasecha. In other words, all this is coming down during Hanukkah, when we're all celebrating by fressing and stuffing our faces with donuts ad nauseum, you understand? And giving Hanukkah gifts every night, every day. The Amaratzim who say this in the media, and they give Hanukkah gifts every day. On the 12 nights of Kratzmach, we get this present to us, and we give the same on the Hanukkah gift boss. You understand? Disgusting, sickening. And while we're at it, all these girls' schools, when are you going to start to have attractive, well put together, hip, with it, young rebbes and teachers who are not quasi-prutzos, who don't have problems understanding themselves, the Gidrei Tznius, like so many teachers in today's Jewish girls' schools, who themselves don't understand. So how in the world can they teach it if they don't understand? When are you going to have ladies who are going to go in and have hashkafa discussions with the girls starting already in middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and throughout high school, to give them real insights into tznius? Let me give you one example. Ladies, young women, when you go into the closet, in the clothing closet in the morning to pick out your clothing, you're not just supposed to say, how will I look attractive? How will I look beautiful? How will I make everybody from both genders go oh and ah over me? That's not what you're supposed to be thinking. You're supposed to be thinking proactively fakert. I want to look put together, but I want to be low-key, because tznius means not attracting the attention. And you know what? If you go too far, let me tell you the Medrash in Eicha that speaks about the fact that the young women of Yerushalayim used to walk around and put perfume in their feet, so when in their shoes, so when they clack down to make the boys look at them. This is a Medrash in Eicha. You're allowed to teach this to the girls in 5,779. Ooh, they're not pewter. They're not made out of crystals, besonnen boxes. And you tell them, and then they would step down on the perfume. So first they would clack with the shoes, and then they would step down the perfume so the wafting smell would attract the bachrim, and they would think bad thoughts. Explain this, the hashkaf of what tznius is, because half the mothers and grandmothers, L'man Hashem, don't know what it's about. So how could they know? Explain to them that what Flatbush Mama is doing. You know this, seeing it on their computers and their smartphones and everything else. You know she said publicly that this is her primary goal of acolytes, and she went on the TV show to the black anchor. I want to show them that the glass ceiling is here. You could break through here. You know what this Menuvelis did? I'm calling him Menuvelis. I was just told she was on with a Muslim woman on some kind of a TV program or a podcast or whatever it was, and she posted it, I'm told, on her own site. She was discussing, excuse me, but I want to say that this program is on 11 o'clock at night, etc., etc. It's rated MA, mature adult audiences. I'm sorry. She was talking about on Maven Yovin with a Muslim woman comparing what their religions have to say about intimacy, shaloi kedarka. That's what this garbage is speaking. This was garbage. And you know what garbage is? It says garbage in, garbage out. She is spewing her garbage onto Klal Yisrael. When are we going to say Dayenu? When are the achdus of Rabbi Reisman and Rabbi Brudny, both of whom I have tremendous derech eretz for, when are they representing the yeshivas and the aguda and the mayetzes? When are they going to call? You know, how should we respond, Levin? They gave in, you know, they capitulated, they folded. You know what they're saying? They're going to both find a venue and chip in to give the catering for free. Let me say something. Nitna nevuah l'shoitim. Let me be the bas kol shoita. On the night of New Year's Eve, their New Year's, the Aguda, Rabbi Reisman, Rabbi Brudny, and et al. In every Aguda shul, they should have a special kinnus. They should say Tehillim for this period so that the Chareidis, the Chareidis had a fold, the rabbinate of the Chareidim, and the kashrus, meaning the kashrus organizations, and the rabbis who were quiet until now, as this monstrosity built up, okay? And the rabbis who were quiet about the voting. And they have to get up and say Tehillim to show, let it be reported in the media that everybody knows this, that the Jews feel they're being victimized and they're being attacked and they're being savaged and beaten financially and etc., etc. Anti-Hanukkah, the Misyavnim of today and the Yevonim, and therefore they're going like toilas. We call toilas worms. How? Because ma toilas repair our koyach repairs. We go into the shuls on the same night when they're going to have their garbage litzonistika ringing in the New Year celebration with wine and a mixed crowd. I guarantee you it's not going to be Erlich Yidden. It's going to be the malcontents, the people who appreciate what they have to sell. They're drumming themselves out of Klal Yisrael. Better they should take off their sheitlach. Two ons nicht kentoivis, where your priests stick a tight clothing and sheitlach and make like a part of us. You understand? Make it official. Make it official. Throw off the shackles of patriarchy. We should be hearing drushes, aval Hashem manachnu, with a new achdus. We're not going to vote for the wrong people. We're going to all vote for morality, and we're going to show a power that's going to resonate across the nation. Like what Tanzania is doing is resonating internationally. We're going to be written up in lifestyle news, and it doesn't even cost us any money. You're losing. You have nothing to get. They're going to push you, and you're going to be busy coming back and putting out these phony, good, self-serving press releases. Yeah, we got them to back off, and they said 3 hours of English. Yeah, we did it, you ox. But they'll still show that they can make you cower. They'll still show they have entree from their school officials into to cross the thresholds and to speak about and stick their noses into everything you're doing in secular and eventually in Hebrew. Who knows what they'll do? Believe me, you're going to see that I'm a shaitan navi, that I'm a prophet. Because the stuff I told you years ago is coming true now big time. And it's cascading, it's going quicker and quicker with more and more velocity. That's right, Rabbi saying. That's what we should be doing. You want to sow aftis? Do what Rav Shmuel Birnbaum used to do. He used to make those parlor meetings, and he would push Gevirim, and they considered it a covet to come and sit with Rav Shmuel and to donate money so that the Erliche Yidden, the Yereim Shleim, and the Koilim and Eretz Yisrael, they would look at Rav Shmuel as the patron, as their patron. And he was sick. He was literally dying on that sukkah, and nobody thought he would come. And he forced himself out to the Lester Koiches to go into the sukkah by Ruby Shron to raise money. Why can't today's Gedolim let them go and raise money to be used? $1 million, it's a schmecktabik $1 million for the Frum community, for the Gevirim that we have. There are people who could shuckle this out of their sleeve like nothing. Are the Gedolim afraid to say it? Why? We're worried they won't give you this donation, they won't give this. Remember the Amolik Gedolim who used to go to raise money, like Rosh Shaga Feivel Mendelovitz, for Yenim's yeshiva. He sent his best him. He sent money for Yenim's yeshiva. If it's Kvayt Shemayim, it's not my Moisid. It's not my institution. It's not my Agudah. It's Taka the real Agudah of Klal Yisrael. Raise the money and stand up against them. Have your own lawyers. Have your own experts. Everything is cowering and giving in. Shame on us. Baishnu mikolam. Ad Masai. I'm here to say, Yodenu lo shavchas adam. I don't care what. We disagree, and if I have to teach my children not to respect this system, I will teach them that. This chanfarai, the sycophantry, the cowering, the lecking. The enemy is ourselves. And they know it. They smell the blood, the sharks in the water, that you chanfa, the Cuomos who a few short months ago, you were there clutching for because he's giving money for security, money for the physical security of the yeshivot and the Beis Yaakov. And what about for the spiritual security? You're compromising and compromising and compromising. Wake up and understand what the real agenda is, Laman Hashem. There was no way that we're gonna I'm gonna be able to cover everything, but I want to say again, become a partner in this, become a partner in what we're doing. I beg with you, I plead with you. Spread the word about the video, spread the word about the radio program, spread the word about the WhatsApps, because I say so much more stuff that I can't put into this precious hour a week that we share, La Kosher Nostra, this kosher thing of ours. Rabbi Sai, please give out, I plead with you, give out the hotline number. Take a pen, write it down. Call up your friends in Lakewood who are the Yereim, the Shleimim. They are the Green Berets of society. It's them we have to reach, the B'nai Torah in Eretz Yisrael and Lakewood. This is the creme de la creme. We got to reach them, that they should know that there are voices out there, few and far between, like myself, who are standing up and saying it like it is, who are passing on the hashkafa and the insights of the Gedolim of yesteryear, because Machal Chayzik from today is doomsday. It's a fact. Give them the hotline number. We need them to be the army. 641 715 3900. 641 715 3900, extension 247656. You mamish the schar that you get for doing this, Rabbi Sai, a tremendous, tremendous schar that you obtain for doing this. Now I want to show you the remaining minutes. Look, this is why you get stuff that you don't get anywhere else. Look, let me show you how to read with hashkafa an ad in the Yater. A beautiful ad. Here's a full-page ad from a week ago. Maybe they still have it in this week's. Let me read it. I'm holding it up here. A beautiful ad. Maybe you saw it. It's wonderful. Shabbos Parshas Vayechi, December 22nd. Respect Life 5779. Here and hereafter, it's time to open the conversation. Traditional end-of-life awareness movement. Be aware, be responsible, be prepared. You understand? Topics include quality of life versus sanctity of life, halachic living wills, reaching out to those around us to prevent cremation, and many more. Gewaldig, Rabbi Sai, gewaldig. But listen to what they should be doing. Yoo-hoo, in the new cutting age that we're now on the internet, we're having the Gedolei Rosh Yeshivas and the newest members of Gedolei Motzes Torah, and I have the great respect for them, and the others from Agudah. They put on every little schnit and trit, every little move they make, they put on. Do they understand that respect for life, you know where it starts, respect for life? You're finding it at the end. The euthanasia, the killing, you know why that's happening? It's a natural outcome of the fact that you have ignored, from a Yidden, you've ignored the destruction of, 50, 55, 60 million babies since the legalization of Roe versus Wade. Es ist nicht unsere Geschäft, es ist nicht unsere. No, first of all, that's disgusting. That's disgusting, because if there's a Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach and it's considered with Sicha, and you're in a gullus where you can have influence on all kinds of things, like teaching Holocaust studies and funding for all kinds of things, then where are you not standing up for Shofech Dam Adam Ba'adam Yishafech? And it's a lie to say that no Jews ever got abortions. Shame on you for this stupidity. So then when there's such an abortion mentality, of course it leads to Dr. Kevorkian. Of course it leads to euthanasia. Of course it leads to the medical associations, the hospitals, and the doctors and the nurses wanting to pull the plug and use the finances and to use the stuff that they have on the younger people. So part of your respect for life Shabbos at this late stage where the Gentiles are fighting for Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court, even though he just disappointed them on something already, he's up there and he already disappointed them. Who knows? Something to do with funding or defunding of Planned Parenthood that he voted not to hear the case. Shame on that. This is already the great Kavanaugh. Let's see how bad it gets. This won't be the first time a Republican president gave us garbage that we're suffering from. But let's not get distracted. What will be if on Shabbos Kodesh throughout the country, in the Frumer shuls where they're having respect for life, they spend 3 minutes, 100 Rabbanim saying, we got to start to show the Gentiles, to show the politicians, to show the courts, we care about the Ritzicha. Because when there's an abortion mentality, it leads to the stuff that we care about, because we're too dumb and stupid and narrow-minded to care about the innocent life of a preborn baby, even if it's a Gentile. We should care. You're blissfully singing when the Egyptian interlocutors, adversaries, oppressors, that each Jew was granted to see his particular opponent, his particularly taskmaster, how he died. And yet Hashem says, don't you sing Shira. He said to the Malachim. Remember that? So there's a time and a place. So Allah has come the common now. Why is abortion off the table for us? Ooh, you're not even allowed to mention Talmudins. Where? That's not what Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky held. You find out from people who know one of the first things Rav Yaakov spoke to, he spoke praising about the nunnery next door and about the fact that there was anti-abortion protests. And stuff like that. The Moshe of Yankov were opposed to which, yes, the Meitzes Torah, they wrote, the bureaucrats wrote some kind of a milquetoast thing that it's written in such a way we're opposed to it, but, as if they're worried. Their excuse is one day they're going to stop Yidden who are allowed to have an abortion in certain circumstances before 40 days, or if it was a rape or whatever it is. And because of this, they couldn't show more support. But I'll tell you what, when Yehuda Levin, as a younger manshik of 28 years old, I was invited to the White House with President Reagan in the cabinet room with the top Christian conservative pro-life leaders of the country. And our Gudda, the Johnny Comes Latelys, were embarrassed. You could bet your booties that next year our Gudda made sure that Levin's not going to get in there again. We're going to have our guy there. All of a sudden, they woke up to the importance of our Gudda. Levin spoke at the national Right to Life, Roe versus Wade anniversary, March for Life on TV to millions of Gentiles and to 100,000 people live for over 30 years. Why didn't Aguda send down people there? Why didn't Aguda send down, when I would try to get a few Yidden from Baltimore, they would tell to stand it, to make a Kiddush Hashem and stand in front of the Supreme Court at the end of the march, and 100,000 Gentiles would march, and they would see the Jews with beards and signs. They would come and take pictures of us, and they would say thank you, and they would raise their hands. It was Menaka, such a Chilul Hashem. Where was Aguda? Where was Baltimore? I'll tell you. I don't have enough time to tell you everything. I don't have enough time to describe to you. You know, the fellow from Berlin was speaking on the Sunday Aguda thing about how to be shtadlanim. We could vote and we could register to vote. We could have Rabbanim speak about it in the shuls and everything else. Your votes, Baltimore, you did a big thing. Aguda in Baltimore, you get your own to vote. And then Rabbi Neuberger from Baltimore, I'm doing what my father does, and he tells you his personal letter to vote for the Schmutz Yaks, who was single-handedly responsible for passing gay marriage in Maryland, which had a profound influence on the Supreme Court, passing it throughout the country. Thank you, Rabbi Newberger. Thank you, Agudas Yisrael. Idiots. This is what it is. The end all is you should vote. The end all is you should vote, or the end all is you should vote correctly. When are you going to stand up on New Year's Eve? You should have in the shuls stand up and say, the reason we have a paskunya, like a flatbush corrupta mama, and a lesbian Leah, who has to make her grouchy, her business, she has to shove it into the frum community, whether she's talking about lesbians or not. Where does this come from? Because of what you're doing. You don't teach them how to vote. This is Yehuda 11. Until this time, next week, tune in, spread the word, our Guten Tamid, and Rabbi Sai, we can and we must overcome. Get on the WhatsApp, see the videos, because we got to educate the Olam.